for Green Valley. And I don't want to take too much of the time tonight. I just really want to welcome you and express my gratitude that you said yes when you got the call from Stephen, because this project is really important to the city, but it's also very important that it is what the community wants and what the community feels that we need. And so we just really value your input and your opinions, and that's why you're here. I'm actually going to kind of step back in the back and let Stephen and you all just have your discussions tonight. And at the end of the day, what we're looking for from you is recommendations and input on what should be included in the final design of a new police station for the city. And we will do our very best to take all those recommendations and make as many of them happen as we possibly can. So with that being said, I just, again, thank you for coming together and actually getting here so fast. It's amazing that we have a group that's able to come together so quickly too. So we are missing a few people tonight, and I will jump in and tell you a little bit more about them when we do introductions. But with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and we'll go from there.
Thanks. Well, next we'll kind of introduce the project team. I think what I'll do is I'll defer and let the folks from Hofer Welker go first. They're the ones that
Tamer Welker.
Oh my God, Paper Welker. Oh my God.
I've only known you for 10 years.
I know, and I'm just sorry. Jet lag driving down here. But anyway, let's go ahead and have you introduce yourselves. You're really the ones that are, kind of the main effort here. So we'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself, tell about your firm.
Ken Hinton, I'm one of the partners at Hazel Welker, and or Hofer Welker, as some people call it. But I love to give you a hard time.
I know.
We have been hired to help them kind of get through the first phase of this and help them identify something that's a little bit more real. When you were talking about, hey, was that conceptual before? It was pretty conceptual. It was thorough enough that they could get a price for it, get something, but we're really going into high detail with the idea of the bond election passes, or as the bond election passes, then we will be already partly started. We are being very cognizant about the money that's being spent, you know what I mean? So we're only going to be a part way into it, but we'll have enough money with our background that we'll have enough development with our background that we'll be able to get the dollars even more accurate than they did before, we think. And that'll be nice. But I head up our civic group, city halls, police stations, fire stations, courthouses, things like that is one of our specialties as a company. And Nick and I have worked together for 14 years.
Nick Waller, also been at Hazel Welker for about 15 years, and a lot of police stations, and courthouses, and federal work, and office buildings. Our office is located over in Leewood. We used to be on the plaza in Leewood about 10 years ago. So we're definitely part of the metro area. We've done a lot of police stations around town, Kansas, Missouri, and just over in Lee Summit and Leewood, and Gladstone right now, just finished one of Lawrence. You'll see some of those tours that we go on. We have about 160 people in our Leewood office, and we also have the Dallas office and the Jacksonville office. So, growing company, but again, we just really love civic work and communities. We also have Chris Crummer on our team. He's not here tonight. He's our first architect.
Okay. Please don't tell I messed up this last name. So anyway, I'm Steve Wolf, and I'm an independent facilitator. I have had the great opportunity to work with these gentlemen before in their firm with similar type of projects, and really excited to be here. I'm from Omaha, so I'm really neutral. Like, I have no dog in the hunt here, other than to really be a champion for this process for public involvement. That's my role here. And I got to tell you, having worked a lot of different community involvement projects, civil works projects, things like that, architectural initiatives, a lot of communities don't go the extra step that Green Valley is going through here to actually impanel a group that that really can help drive the outcome of the design process that they're going to actually do on behalf of the city. So it takes some courage to do that. And also, it's great that that they're really committed to doing as much with the input you give in what the final decision is and what they're ultimately going to share with the rest of the community. So you really are serving a very important role for everybody here in Green Valley. So really excited about that. Just a couple more things about me as far as my background. I'm really excited to celebrate my 30th wedding anniversary this year. Just became a grandfather like a month and a half ago finally, and yeah, good stuff. And 5 daughters. And so yeah, finally the kids are starting, the grandkids are starting to sprout. And what else? Been doing this kind of work for about 40 some years now, and also served part-time in the military. We were really excited to retire as an Army Sergeant Major back in 2018 with my part-time career. So I certainly respect people that are in, first responders and people that are really out there when everything's going south. We're the ones heading straight forward. So that this is a really important thing to me, that that law enforcement really gets a great facility that we get to help make that happen. So enough of our backgrounds as the project team, and there will be some other people you'll meet as we go along as different phases of the project come in, other experts will come in and get involved with this. Now I want to have you guys introduce yourselves, but here's what I want to do. You all don't like know each other, right? I mean, it's not like everybody's kind of meeting for the first time. What I want to do is just have a moment for you to interview each other. You can split up any way you want, pair off. Since I see the number, that's going to work good for tonight. But just pair off and just find out a little bit about you, like what part of town you live in, how long you've lived here, what do you like best about Green Valley, and what's most important about this project to you. If you guys would somehow figure out how you're going to do that. Okay. I don't know if we go man, woman here, or we. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Sandy, commercial working company right now. Okay, a good deal. We do all commercial work. Listen, we have another office garage in Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah, right now we're listening. We do all five work. We have some shingles. Probably the most notable job that you've seen is a big warehouse. On the outer road. So, yeah, we do that. We're doing that right now. So that job there is 600,000 square feet. Security business, myself, 2 kids, we live in the valley for 25 years in the last year. People say here, we say, yeah. So we usually the boss lady decided that we're doing. You have to go. Yeah, pretty much. Get her out of the house, that was a different way. Pretty engaged. Sit on the partnership board, PDC, and sit on that.
Okay. I know the state on workshops is right down there. We got a guy that is right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, I got the truck close. Yeah, that's one of my buildings. Okay, I got the acres. Sign.
I'm trying to get my. Yeah,
Right.
one kid runs in school, she's a freshman.
Okay, let's try to wrap up here. And here's the deal. You don't get to introduce yourself to the rest of the group now. You gotta introduce the person that you just found out
I
about.
knew you were gonna say that. Good thing I was listening.
It's a test.
So, who wants to go first? Okay, Nick. It's
Yeah,
always best to
But I
go
won't
first.
forget. This is Joanne. She lives on the south side of Green Valley, and she is retired. But she wanted to be a part of this because she is, the influence on the city is very important to her. She has a granddaughter that she's raising that's a junior in high school. So she loves Green Valley schools, and she's married. And she has been coming to some of the Green Valley involvement things that we have. And spoke a couple times, and they called her for this, what do we call this?
Study group.
Study group,
We made
This
call ourselves something
endeavor.
else before the night's over.
Right.
That's how we're
So,
starting.
yeah, so she's excited and looking forward to being involved.
Great, thank you, good job. Joanne?
So, this is Megan, and she lives on the south side also, but kind of like country. And she has Oak Grove address, and her kids go to Lee Summit School, but she has a business in Grand Valley. Dallas College. So, yeah, I was excited about that. And so she's really connected to the community and involved, and she wants to see the community grow. And we both talked about the police station. We want to see a better police station and a better staff police station. Yeah, to help the community.
Great. Boy, another great job.
Yes.
All right, Andy.
This is Lance. He owns Sheffers Roofing down yonder. Down yonder. Commercial roofing company, has lived in Great Valley 25 years. Empty nester finally. We got 4 years. So been involved in Green Valley for ages. It's on partnership and really intrigued with, both intrigued with the construction, the actual facility, things like that, the numbers. So, it's actually kind of great to meet you and put a face with your name on every damn truck I see.
Are you over there next to Casey's,
Oh, yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the 4 buildings,
right by the carpet companies over there?
yeah, so from the carpet company,
Uh-huh.
the next 4 buildings are all our
Okay.
buildings and stuff like that. Then we also have a location in Rogers, Arkansas.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So, my turn?
Yes.
Andy, we share a lot of different things. He has an overhead door company. Ironically, it seems like we live down the road. His office is literally down the road from my office, and we've seen each other for a long time, back and forth. Still has one person, a kid in high school here. He's been in the area for 19 years. Glad to have him on board because he knows construction. I think he brings a lot of common sense to it.
Great. And you want to kind of, and well, Amanda should show up. I can say a couple things about her, but go ahead and.
Okay, so, we have, Amanda Allen, I believe she's Dr. Amanda Allen, is that correct?
Yeah, PhD, yeah.
I haven't actually met her yet in person. She is the middle school principal at North Middle School. So, obviously has connection to Green Valley through that community connection and lives, I believe, on the edge of town as well. We also will expect to join us. Amanda will be here later this evening. Wayne Geider, if you're not familiar with Wayne, he's a pretty well-known figure in the community. He's the pastor of First Baptist Church right off of downtown Green Valley in that area. He's a resident of Green Valley, and he also has been very involved with the VIPS program, which is our Volunteers in Police Services. So, and also, I believe is our police chaplain still as well. So very connected to our police department in that manner. And then the final person that's not able to make it tonight, but you will meet soon, is Louise Virgil. Luis lives in Ward 3. He is a police officer in Independence, actually, and has been a police officer in Blue Springs as well. So he'll bring that perspective from someone who is using facilities facilities and knows what that's like. And has kind of lived in the area, Eastern Lexington area, for quite some time now, so. Perspective from a different.
It's different walks, that's great.
Yeah, so next thing on our agenda is to talk about, just, that's a great transition as far as the walks of life. And so next thing on our agenda is really talking about the facilitation process. And it started with communicating with the city, like, hey, can you recommend some people that are well regarded in the community by, by their neighbors and their peers.
And those people weren't available, so.
Oh, geez, here we go. And part of that too is like diversity in a couple ways, right? We wanted at least 2 representatives from each of the city's 3 wards, whether they either work or live in that ward. Okay, and so we've got that 2 from each, and then we kind of consider Dr. Ellen Amanda as kind of our at-large person. So there's 7 of you all together. But I was so impressed with the names that the city forwarded with, just different backgrounds. There were a couple of people that, we had more names forwarded to us than we could possibly fit, into the group of 7. And some of them, I think you will probably recognize them and probably see them at some point in this process. But they are like already so involved in so many things in the community. I thought, well, let's try to, and after talking to you, I could tell how eager you all were to really be part of this, and you had the availability and things like that. So, I kind of was the one. The city didn't tell me who to pick. You guys, this community could not go wrong with the people that were forwarded as, for consideration for this. So thank you for stepping up, because you really are going to drive a very, very important process for the architectural team and for the city and for your neighbors. So that's kind of part 1 of the facilitation process. The other part of this too is just know that what we're doing is we're following the way these gentlemen and their firm figure out how to put together a police station. There's a thing called programming. And I'm not an architect, by the way, so I'm not going to get too far into explain that. They're going to give you architect and planning and programming 101 here in just a second. But they have different steps that they take. And so we've designed 6 meetings, formal meetings, as the study group that track exactly with their phases of how they do their work. So you're like ground floor. There hasn't been one piece of pencil put to a paper starting to draw anything up for this new police station yet. They're reviewing existing stuff from the previous effort, and we're doing some site work today, looking around and doing some things.
Yeah, well, that stuff that we got from them, the programming stuff, that is valid. We're configuring it and tweaking a few things, but it was something we could reduce.
Okay, good. So,
Since you said that was one of my concerns, was they didn't throw out, they just scrap it.
Right.
You can rework it. So I'm very pleased with that.
right, right. So that's kind of how we're going to meet between now and then. I think our last meeting is set for January 4th. We're going to go over the schedule a little bit more detail a little bit later in the agenda. So that's kind of the process. Now, there are a couple other things I want to alert you to that we hope, it's like extra credit if you're willing to do this, but there will be some design charrettes that you're more than welcome to come to. We'd love for you to be there at those, but at that, they'll invite other people from the community in as well. So you start to see the circle of involvement get a little bit bigger, but not as intimate as your involvement. And then after that, one of the things that's really important is that we're going to want to hold a community open house meeting, like a general public wide open meeting, and really encourage everybody to come. But here's the thing, at this open house meeting, that meeting is really going to be featuring your recommendations to the design team of the city. And we hope that you will actually help present your recommendations to your neighbors. I mean, we're going to be there, but we're really wanting to show off the work and your involvement and your input into this process. So, I mean, you really have again, a big hand in what we're trying to do together. So, we'll hope that, and we'll look at the date that we have tentatively set for that, and we certainly hope that you would be able and willing to come and help share, you know, your ideas and what you all came up with as a group and you know, just help people see how well you help inform this process. Okay, so that's another thing. Couple other things too, as far as we move along. Certainly you may just pick up the phone and call Nick or Ken, or you can call Teresa or Ken Murphy or Chief Beal. But if you're not sure, if you got a question, you're not sure who to ask, I'm happy to take your question and not have you, you know, dialing 5 numbers to try to get the answer. I can track stuff down for you and get it back. Another thing that's important in the kind of group dynamic, we'll talk about ground rules in a second, but this is another thing that's really important. Sometimes within a group, for whatever reason, some people may have this burning question, or they got a concern, they're upset or concerned about something, and they don't necessarily want to surface that in front of everybody in the room. Well, my commitment to you is that if you've got anything that you just really want to get out there, but you, for whatever reason, you don't want to bring it up in front of the group, give me whatever the question or the concern is. I will bring it up to the group, and whoever brought it to my attention, no names are going to be mentioned, it doesn't matter. What matters is that the issues and concerns that you have and the ideas you have, what matters is that they get out in the open and that they're discussed as a group and that way. So that way you don't walk out of this, you know, a few months from now going, gosh, I wish I'd said this, I wish this would have happened, we would have discussed these things. So that's a commitment I make to you. So you've got my email address, you've got my phone numbers. And so if you've got any questions, any concerns, I'm happy to make sure, whether I got to run information down or just make sure I'm the one to bring it up in the group, that's going to happen, okay? All right, so, and call me anytime, don't worry about it. I mean, I'm here for you guys. All right, so next thing I want to cover are ground rules, some things that I hope we can all agree on for how we'll conduct our business. And I think, by the way you handled the introductions, this first one won't be a problem. But no one's walking out of here on the study group that isn't going to be involved. I'm going to make sure before the end of every meeting that everybody's participated in that meeting. Okay, we want everybody involved. We don't want any, again, just we got to make sure you all have your input. I want you to be open-minded if you can. And just, you're going to learn some things. You're going to learn from each other. You're going to learn from the city. You're going to learn from the team here. So just be open-minded, and I think not maybe have some preconceived notions, and just be open-minded about the things you're learning and what might be. Okay, there's a lot of different, you're going to learn so much about things you take for granted. I mean, I don't know if you noticed when you walked in here what the walls were made out of. Why is that piece of wood 3 feet up off the floor? What's the floor made out of? Ceiling, what's that made out of? How are they heating and cooling this place? There are so many things you're going to get exposed to that we want you to learn these things, hear about. So just be open-minded. There's a lot of stuff that you walk in the building every day and you have no idea all the thought that went into the things that you just take for granted. So we want you to not take that for granted and kind of take it in, okay? Nothing personal. What does that mean? No personal attacks. Okay, we're here to discuss ideas. We go after issues. We don't go after people. Okay, so that, you know, another way of saying that, let's just make sure we have some mutual respect. All ideas are welcome. So, you know, I think, you know, back from our school days and stuff, there's times where there's that burning question and you're afraid to ask it because you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna look silly or sound silly if I ask this. I should have known the answer already. You know, you're afraid to raise your hand. But I want you, just if you've got ideas, let's get them out there either in this forum or through me to get them back out there. But let's you know, all ideas are welcome. I don't think there's anything too far off the wall that we can't deal with. Okay. Now at the end of the day, when you go get together to put your recommendations together to submit to the city, some of those ideas may not be there at the end of the conversations. But let's make sure it's all out there. Okay. Already talked about mutual respect. when we do talk, let's try to go one at a time, so no one's stepping on anybody. Let's try to minimize, try not to have a lot of sidebar conversation things, because that can be fairly disruptive to the conversation. Another thing I like to do when we talk about moving forward, so what's going to happen here is we may as a group take votes. But let's understand the votes you take are staking a position of a group recommendation to the city. Like there's no public vote for you, at least at this time, say, you know, this is exactly what the city must do type thing, right? The city has to make the final decision based on your input and the great advice of these experts, right? But what we're going to do is we may at times discuss some issues and say, okay, let's see if we can get a consensus. Let's take a vote on that. And we can even decide our own voting rules. Is it 50, if we're going to have something where you're trying to figure out how to stake the group position, is it 50% plus one vote? Is it 51% of the vote of 7 people? Is it 2/3? You know, we can figure out whatever threshold qualifies as your consensus as a group as you work together to stake out positions. Okay, and we don't necessarily have a lot of those, but usually when you can tell there's like somebody's not comfortable or something, that's when we'll probably hunker down and say, okay, let's stop talking about this so much. It's like, let's go ahead and try to take a vote and really gauge the temperature of the room and move forward with that. But once you do that, my job is to keep us moving forward. We're going to get everything discussed now on the table, get through this. But once we take those votes, once you stake that position, we are not going to go back and rip at it and try to, you know, go back and revisit that. We're going to keep moving forward so we can get the total collection of your recommendations put together. Okay, and I hope this too, that if you've all had a chance when we do work to stake out positions, that you have felt that you were so well heard and involved in discussion that even if something doesn't quite go the way you want, I hope that you'll respect that and move forward with the process and that. Just know that you absolutely had your piece, okay? So, parking lot, what's that? Well, every once in a while, we do get into conversations where, even if you're trying to take the vote, there's too much going on, or somebody or a group of people are trying to, like, let's get a decision here. But maybe there's another, like our next meeting actually has better information that would inform that decision that you're grappling with today. So what we do is, what I do is I call it putting it in the parking lot. And we're going to just park that. It's not going anywhere. But that idea, that discussion, we're going to park it for now so that we can keep moving forward. And then we're going to go back to that issue and continue to discuss it. Maybe once more information is available, there's a chance to cool down or whatever it might be. I don't necessarily think there's going to be any real contention here, but you just never know. Okay. So anyway, that's the other part of this process. Now, these ground rules, are these acceptable to you? Maybe this is our first vote. Are these okay? Is there any?
That's great.
Okay. Is there anything that's not here that you'd like to see as part of our ground rules?
Can we add pizza?
Cookies are
At
okay?
any time.
Well, I don't know if that's a rule, but I think we probably could try to figure out a
That
pizza
was
at one of these deals. Maybe we entice you to come help present at the open house by feeding you pizza there. Okay. Oh, hey, all right, good. All right, so great. Thank you for that. Now, charter. I sent you just those are just a couple of samples. And we can sit here and wordsmith those, but any of those charters jump out at you, want to throw them away and start fresh, or? And the charter basically is just kind of like, why are we here? What are we doing? What are we going to accomplish? Kind of like a mission statement, but maybe a little more than a mission statement. And that way, when somebody in the community says, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" You can say, "Well, here's our charter. This is what we're doing." Exactly.
I like the first one.
first one's more in depth. And so the second one sums it up really well, but I like some of the added value in the first one.
Okay.
But-
You want the first one?
Okay,
Okay,
we're
so-
making decisions.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. All right, so look, you've already made 2 decisions. So this is great. We are rolling here. Okay, so option 1, we'll make that the charter. Okay, next on the agenda is to, speaking of names, right? We're, it kind of as a starter, we just, and you don't want the name to get 20 miles long. But at least we kind of tentatively wanted to call you the Green Valley Police Station Study Group. Is there a better name? Is there a name that describes who you are and what you're doing that's maybe more concise or better than that?
What would you say? What was your,
What was the title?
yeah,
Oh, it's on the
oh,
on the top of your agenda. It's the Green Valley Police Station Study Group.
like a GVPSSG.
We can definitely, I've already, like in my address book, I've got you,
I don't know if I
I've already
remember.
abbreviated you there.
Okay.
But certainly, I think we could do some abbreviation, but does that kind of say who you are and what you're doing? Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, oh. All right, goals. So that's, again, I think the goals are reflected in the charter, like what you're trying to accomplish and do for the community. Is there, and I think, if we do all this stuff, we're gonna, that's kind of a goal, just to have a great functioning collaborative effort. Is there anything that you want to just like kind of put out there and say, this is what I want the end state, the end of this process. This is an idea of kind of like how I want to feel like what we've accomplished. What would you like to, anything that you want to throw out? What do you think it's covered in the charter?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much covered in the charter. I mean, I think my goal is basically, hopefully we move forward with the police department, because, talking to Chief Beal is definitely needed. And be able to do it as financially as sound as we possibly can, and to understand who we are as Green Valley, and that we're not, Leewood or something like that, and be able to fit gives much bang for a buck for the dollar without overbuilding it, to something different. We build, we're involved with a lot of police departments and city halls and all that sort of thing. And man, I've seen it from really simple budget wise to, pretty elaborate stuff.
Yeah, what fits in the city.
So I mean, I would like to see a facility that fits our community, and will serve our police department well. And not just for today, but for the next, so we can outlook for the next 10 and 20 years. So we don't end up with an issue like we have over here. I can't remember how long our city hall police station's been there, 25 years, maybe 22.
Yeah,
Yeah, 20 something.
since I was-
Yeah, and we're way undersized for that. So I think we need to look forward. What are the projections of our population? Yeah, and I know you guys will look into all that sort of thing if you ever have it.
And maybe I missed this, but is there a spot for this, or is that all something else that we're, a spot for this facility, the new facility? Or can they put
New
it,
facility, right, that's the,
it will go where the city hall or where
it's where the track's at right now. That's what we're gonna talk about, in that plot of land over there. We're looking for somewhere over there,
the,
but it
okay,
hasn't been completely determined.
okay, that, yeah, I wasn't sure if that,
Right, because of access and what have you. But these guys will help with that.
okay, I just wasn't sure if that was.
I would like to ask a question. What happened to South County?
Teresa, which one here? That one's yours.
South of town.
What happened to South of Town?
So, after the budget failed, we did a community survey and we got a decent amount of feedback with concerns around access down there, noise issues, different things like that. And so it really felt like if we were to move forward with putting a police station down at Seven Sounds, may or may not be supported. So as a board got together and started discussing it, they determined that this might be a better option for this particular part of that complex. So we still own the land down south. the future of that land is still unknown, but right now they are focusing just on the police station parking. We're trying to
It was,
look at that
it was
community.
really the
survey, take that
police
feedback.
station that they were concerned about being down there, not the
Yeah.
other buildings, is that right?
Yeah, primarily, we heard a lot about noise with the police cars coming in buildings, concerns that it was not centralized in town anymore, things like that. So, we haven't really dove back into the other pieces of that plan where they would go. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
And then part also what I believe too, Teresa, I mean, was that the cost for the overall place over there and stuff like that, because the infrastructure and everything else that had to go in.
Yeah.
Depending on who you listen to, then 38 to even 60 million, right? I mean, there's all over the board. So from a budget standpoint, in my opinion, this might work better because it's all right here at the second camp also, as compared to trying to develop a whole other piece of property out there that it's how many acres it is, but it's just basically farming.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a nice spot though.
Yeah.
It
Say
is, I
something.
mean, yeah, and build a house, old houses there and stuff. So there's a whole lot to work through over there. If you know the long-term history of it, the pond you try to dig, there's all kinds of stuff out there. So, hopefully this will be a little bit cleaner, more easier. And maybe hopefully fit us better as a community.
So I took down 3 things that you said, Lance, that I think sound like goals. What do you folks think of that? Are those some worthy goals?
Yeah.
Anything else we want to add to this list? Okay.
So I heard about more long-term thinking with the facility, so they're not really thinking about moving out in 20 years. Did I hear that come up?
Yeah, probably underneath this number 2, facilities with our community, what's our growth projections? I don't know if anyone really planned on our city growing like it has the last 15 years. Or what they did when they built this, if they planned that, but does anyone even know? The city have a plan on our growth, because let's not, like I said, let's not do this again.
Or not having enough space, you know, building off.
So,
Right, our building so it's expandable
Mhm.
to our size, whatever that is, but sitting on the EDC, yes, there is an idea where we're headed with some of that sort of thing. I believe.
knowing that, planning for growth in addition down the road.
And that, these kinds of things, I don't know, you realize how important these things you're sharing right now are going to be for this team. That has a huge impact on the design process. And it's your goals too, but it's,
Our community, it has to remain accessible.
okay?
I mean,
Welcome.
well, even accessible, like, if they're taking part of this back here, it's hard to get in and out of it sometimes. So they could look at accessibility in that way. Maybe going out to that other road by that gas station across the street.
Also,
Yeah,
And, yeah, there'll be a lot to look at there.
yeah,
And that was one of the things we briefly talked about. I think when we came in, actually, is how we're going to get in and out, and stuff like that, and well, affect the ball fields and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of things we need to look at. And, part of it's the park.
yes.
Will we be allowed to take it to the park, or will we not? And it may be something big term, right, Teresa, that maybe part of the park's moved out to the house property or the south property. So there's all kinds of different pieces and parts that we need to look at as a team, what moves and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That type of thing. So we'll work on it.
Mhm.
Anything else we want to add? So what we're going to do when we do keep moving forward and keep staking things out, I'm going to discuss some nice sticky stuff on here, not so it lasts through the whole process, but I'm going to stick this wall so that we can evaluate. When we have these ideas we're kicking around, we should ask ourselves, okay, are these goals, are these things we're talking about, will that hit our goals? And so we'll be able to reflect on that throughout this whole thing.
As we go through this process and know more about everybody's thoughts and things, will we be able to maybe add
Oh, sure.
goals to the list if you're putting us on the spot tonight, but we might have one that comes up the next time we meet.
Right. Well, and honestly, we need to hear the city's goals too, as a government, right? We need to hear Chief Beal Yeah, because he's gotta drive that ship, right? And he's gotta understand what he's getting his hands on too. And you've got things, they're gonna talk about the architectural stuff one-on-one, so I almost think after you get done hearing from these guys next, you may think, oh, well, now that I heard that, we might want to add that to this too. 'Cause there's things that they've got a lot of creative ability, but there's also constraints they have to deal with in putting something together. So there's all kinds of things they have to take into account as well.
I guess we should set this up to start to, Kim Murphy, our city administrator, and Chief Bill, we also have a board volunteer budget workshop tonight, so we're dividing all three. And so it's not that they didn't think this was important, or that we should be here, but they're obviously.
Some of them obviously, and they also have parent teachers.
Yeah.
meetings with our schools.
So sorry, I didn't say that to start, but
But thank you for yeah, and so to your point, Ken, yeah, this will be a living sheet for us, okay? Okay, I think the last I want to cover on the facilitation process is kind of acknowledge what you're even seeing right now, with some other things going on in the room, okay? You notice there's some folks here that aren't part of the study group. That's absolutely by design. We want this community, anybody that's interested, they may not have a direct speaking part or, getting into deliberations, but we, sometimes you have these meetings and everybody thinks it's all happening behind closed doors. This is going to be completely transparent. Anybody that wants to come and observe, as long as we got the room, we want them to observe what you're doing. And that, to that point, this gizmo here has apparently got all of us on camera at the same time. It's like a spider or something, all these eyes all over the place, but this is being recorded, not live streamed yet, but it's being recorded as a test. And then certainly for the folks that weren't able to make it tonight, and yourselves too, if you want to go back and revisit this meeting, we can make sure that the recordings are available. But if this test works out well, our idea is to actually try to live stream this as we're actually meeting. And that way, for people that maybe can't get in here, don't want to come or whatever, but they're still interested, this gives, as you're learning and contributing, the rest of the community gets to kind of come along for the ride and like look over our shoulders in real time. So we've got no hidden agendas here, nothing going on behind closed doors. We really want the community to understand what you're doing and what we're doing together. So there's going to be a lot of transparency. I also record this. We'll put together like a more of an executive summary meeting minutes, not like every word for word, so it's not 50 million pages long. But we'll have a summary of that. It's good just to be able to reflect on, oh, I can't remember, I wrote something down. Is that what it's like? Well, we've got a recording of that as well as this. And then certainly if you need a copy of the digital recording, the voice recording, I'm happy to, Dropbox that to you or whatever, so you want to go back and revisit that as well. So that's another very important part, is just the transparency of this process and the fact that we really want the community to kind of, look over our shoulders and watch what we're doing and learn with us all together at the same time. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim next to give us architecture 101.
Thank you, Steve. Well, one of the things that I think I'd like you to know about our company, not know, we can hand out business cards, we all have our contact information and everything, but if you go to our website and look at our buildings on there, we don't have a style. I think we've got a lot of beautiful buildings, we've got a lot of successful buildings. For me, the real award that we get is when our clients are happy because the buildings function and we listen to them. And the reason that they all look different is because we try to reflect the values of communities that we designed for. And when you said something a little bit earlier, Lance, I think it was you or it might have been Andy that talked about that. That's right in our wheelhouse. We'll do actually during the design phase, we'll put up maybe 100 images on this wall and let people put green and red dots on it, what they like, what they don't like, what looks like them, what doesn't like. So getting input from you all on that will be excellent. And I want to tell you, we embrace that input. You know what I mean? We make anything look beautiful. Tell us what you're thinking, and the chance of you getting that reflected in the design is very good. So I hope at the end of the project, at the end of when we pass the bond election, you feel that way as the project rolls out and gets implemented. You feel like we listened and we didn't just, okay, now that's done, we're going to change the design on it, because that's not how we operate as a company. So right now we're running parallel paths. And we are just starting the design and we're just starting the community engagement process. And a lot of people go design a building, get no input and design, and then try to go get a bond election passed or get a vote from the community. You know, Steve's process that he took us to about 5, 6 years ago, we started doing this with him when we got this, is to run things parallel. You know, at the end of the day, while we're doing our exploration and searching, you're going to get to take tours of some facilities with us to see what the neighbors have. You know, some things are going to be right for you, some things aren't. Right now, we've got some tours set up in 3 different facilities. We think that they're bookends. You know, the Lawrence Police Station is one of the newest stations. It is the newest station in the region. And we did a nice one for Kansas City, Kansas, which is a wood frame building. We're probably going to go tour that. There might be 1 or 2 others that we looked at, but so you can see kind of where they're at, what they're competing against. Because at the end of the day, the officers that work here in Great Valley are also being courted to work in Independence and Mission and Leewood. So if we've got something that's out of whack with them, like there's mold growing on the wall, who wants to work, have their office in there? Now, they don't have mold. I don't think they have mold growing on the wall. But that's kind of the issue.
Well, I guess we're about to find out.
I guess we're gonna find out on the tour tonight.
I know it's small.
Yeah, it's tight. And so as we run along through here, we're doing a programming phase right now, and that's basically the assessment of what their needs are. And we were able to take the document that was produced a few years ago and look at that, but we kind of started out with org charts that look like this, that were provided by the city of all the departments and everything. We want to make sure that we've got a seat for everybody going forward. So we get the people that we have now, and then we're using that along with population to project what would be needed in the future. And it's a real crystal ball, what's going to grow. And you said, what could anybody anticipate what's happened to this city in the last 5 years or 10 years? You know what I mean? It's just continuing to grow and blossom. And certainly the more improvements that you do in this area, the more attraction it is. You know, if you look at just the exit down there, I was telling Nick, you know, when I started playing golf out there you turn left and there was only that quick shop, that gas station was the only thing there. Some of the other stuff was there, but look at it now, how developed, how that's blossomed. And it's beautiful. It's just right down here, right down the street from where you are. But that's kind of an important part. So understanding the space needs, well, at the end of the day, we're showing the city diagrams like this that show the study that was done before had a whole bunch of different room sizes for all different sizes of offices. And the reality of life is you either need an office or you don't. And as soon as you start building 100 different room sizes, it impacts your long-term ability. If somebody gets promoted, they get moved from a little office to the next one, do you even own that office? Or do you have to build a new office or something? And that's kind of what it gets into, where the corporate giants in the world, they know these are the size offices that work. If you need to have a small conference table in your office, you need just a little bit bigger one because of your job description, but otherwise everybody gets the same office. And I call it future proofing. You know what I mean? It's easy to move into a room, even a storage room. If the storage room is supposed to be 120 square feet, but all of the offices are 150, you know what? Let's build it 150. Because if push comes to shove, you can always move the storage to the basement and put a person in that storage room that's perfect size for an office, and they're right with their department. So long term and medium term, they stay effective. You keep that productivity amongst the staff. So that's a pretty important philosophy of ours. And you know, one of the reasons hopefully the city hired us is because they like that kind of thought process. So the bottom line in that is the space needs assessment that was done before, we're tweaking it a little bit in order to right size the room and help to future proof the facility that we're building. Now, because we've got that crystal ball is fairly foggy, what's going to be going on 20, 30 years from then. Ideally, we're building this building for at least a 50-year span. Some of the buildings we build, like that one over in Leewood, if that thing doesn't last 100 years, I don't know what's going to. That means the right kind of materials, the right construction type, and just because things are durable does not mean that they need to cost more. So when we go on these tours, we're going to be looking at the materials. And you know, this is a fairly inexpensive floor that we got in this room, very durable, but it needs to be polished in order to look good. So if you've got staff like in a school and you got the janitors that are polishing the floors every night, you can put this flooring in and it's not a big deal. We've got a bunch of police officers and a couple of maintenance people trying to do a whole building. You're probably going to want something that's moppable with water and a mop, something that's easy to clean, but it's still going to hold up for 20 or 30 years, you know. So it's those kind of things. once we get the space needs, we're also looking at different sizes for offices and things like that. We're showing a bunch of diagrams, we've got a whole bunch of plans in, we're having multiple conversations over the next, month and a half with everybody to determine what the space needs are. And at the same time, we're running parallel paths. We're also doing an analysis of the site, ingress, egress issues, will things fit? Where are the utilities? And if we're looking at more than one site, we probably be doing that with a couple of sites right there. Not spending tons of money to do it, but spend the time to do it before we start designing. Once we have all of our due diligence done, and we're gonna be doing that with you, including tours of facilities, because this program statement, the space needs statement, can't be done until we've seen the existing facility and seen the new facilities to spark all those ideas. Hey, could we have something like this? Or please don't let us have that. That's not gonna work for us at all. It's those kind of conversations that we have that allows us to communicate, develop our communication with everybody, but also allows us to understand exactly what that a certain thing means. Does it mean that, or does it mean that? And when we're like making these tours, we know we'll be able to differentiate that. Once we get all of our background done, is there anything you want to add to that, up to that?
I was just gonna elaborate just a little bit. So this is just a book of that project a couple years back. The needs assessment and that concept design that was done by those other firms in the city. And the same program, different format is in here, right? So we started here. We said, let's use all that data, all that time the city and the PD and the community put together and start here. Let's not reinvent the wheel. And then what Ken's done here is literally just reformatted it. And we spent this afternoon going through this, and this is every single room that would be in the police station. So we're not guessing, we're not saying, oh, that's about 150 square feet, there's about 500 over here. This is literally every single room, and what are we gonna do in that room? Who's gonna be in that room and why? And in 10 years, there's 2 people need to be in that room. And so getting this narrowed down with you all and with PD in the city is super, super important so that we aren't designing the wrong building, right? This adds up. There's a total up here. This math is how big a building we're gonna build. So we want to make sure the math is right. We have every single seat counted for, every office counted for, every space that's needed from the chief or whoever else is telling us. And then we start designing. What we can do with this is also think about cost and again, durability and this area might need this item or this area could expand in this fashion. And so this is a very, very important document. And on these tours, you'll be able to see a space and you'll say, hey chief or hey Ken and Nick, do we have this in our program? Well, no, we talked about it. They didn't have it before. It's a pretty large space. And
Maybe we should put it on the list.
maybe we should add it in there. Maybe for retention for future officers, we need that space. Or wow, this is really big. This is not who Green Valley is. We don't want a 2,000 square foot lot. Whatever that is.
Yeah.
And we can hear that from you. And you can see what that really means.
I think what he's getting to is managing expectations is probably the biggest thing. And it's not really our expectations, it's your expectations. You know what I mean? And the city's expectations with what they're getting in these tours are incredible for that. In addition to all the conversations that we have. Once we get all of this information, we have the ability to design a building. Now we're going to go through a process which we call a sustainability shred or eco shred. We're actually going to do a cost payback analysis of 4 or 5 mechanical systems, maybe even solar, to show you if we added solar to the building, here's how much it costs, here's what the payback is. What do you think? Is this a solar community? We're not going to tell you that, but we're going to give you the information so you can say, hey, solar just isn't there yet. We'll wait on that. We can add it later, 10 years down the line if you want to, but this thing might make sense to do to make it a little bit more energy efficient, because as taxpayers, we pay the utility bills for the buildings that the cities have. If we can build a new building that's twice the size and have the cost of the electricity and gas be the same or maybe even less than where they're at now, that's win-win. But if it costs a fortune to do that, more difficult conversation to have. So we'll get engaged in that. Before we start designing, we'll do a range cost estimate. And if we're over budget, we'll know right in the beginning. You know what I mean? It's way too much. And we do this from a historic experience that we have. But once we've got everything right, it looks like we're in that wheelhouse. Then we'll do a 3 or 4 day design shred, maybe in a room like this, maybe even in this room, and fit up things on the wall, show you all our research we've done, and really design the building in real time. We have you know, a meeting or 1 or 2 meetings a day with the stakeholders, the city group and things, and we're just in here with all our designers, working in this room for 2, 3, 4 days, whatever it takes to get to the final solution. And the study group is coming back from time to time. It might meet on Monday morning, and then we'll come back at the end of the day, Monday, or maybe Tuesday morning, you can come back and see us. Well, that works out real well. However, people have got lives to lead. For the city staff, they're committed to attending the meetings and doing that. But if you wanted to come and say you can't meet the 2 o'clock meeting, and you get here at 4:30, we're still here. You know what I mean? So what we have found is that the cities really feel like they have a really high input in the design of the buildings. Again, that's why they all look different, but they all need to function the way the city needs to function. So the police chief is going to be heavily, his staff is going to be very heavily engaged in the internal functions of the building. We're going to be very interested in the site circulation and the layout and access points. That's going to be, you know, we're concerned about that, but the police certainly are too. So,
And I think there's obviously every department's different, every city's different, but there's some industry standards or some workflow processes that we're familiar with. We want to make sure we understand how Green Valley PD operates, but you'll see suggestions on how rooms should lay out or spaces should flow. And we'll walk you through that on the tours too, so you understand, you know, why it is the way it is. It's not arbitrary by any means. So a little bit of science sometimes with how spaces are laid out. There's a reason for it.
one of the concerns I had that we brought up is how far do we take the design before we go to the wall? The more we take it, the farther we go, the more accurate our cost estimate and stuff is going to be. But we might get to a point and say, you know what? If we show that building to a real building design to the community, Taj Mahal will be labeled on it, and people will vote it down. So maybe we don't go that far. We're really looking for you as we go through this process to tell us where we stop. We can design the building, which is only about 15% of the project, 10 or 15%, and not use it, but we can still use it for the cost data, but maybe not show everybody all those pictures. Again, if it reflects your community, it should be fine the way it is. But that's kind of something that we're going to be looking to you to kind of tell us what do you think your community wants to see, what's too much, what's not enough, you know, those kind of questions.
Any questions at this stage? We're going to get deeper and deeper into the subjects. Obviously, be able to ask more questions and go on the tour. I think it's going to be really informative to you. You're going to, again, you probably used to just walking into a building and just kind of not really, there's like 1,000 details that are going on in front of you. You don't even know they're there.
Is there a rough budget right now, construction budget?
Right now, we don't even know all those space needs. So the construction budget, we've got the historic data from the last study, and we can roll that in there. But until we verify, until we verify what the space needs are and have these conversations with tours and things like that, we're somewhere in between a metal building and the Taj Mahal right now in terms of quality. And I don't know where it is. If we go in there and get the space, then we'll bring it in here. I have a feeling that we're kind of down here. You know what I mean? I used to show a slide of this metal building in the Taj Mahal and say, okay, who can pick out the Taj Mahal? It's fairly obvious. But we don't really know. I'm just not trying to.
So if we don't, I mean, if I'm going to build a new house, right? I want the biggest house that I mean, you know, I got this idea, but if my budget's only X number of dollars, I'm wasting my time looking at all the big houses.
I think the initial study had it about $10 or $12 million. Is that what
Yeah, I
it
don't
was?
quote the numbers, because we were looking at it all as a big campus, but
Yeah, it's in the $10 million range.
My guess was 8 to 12.
And that could be right.
I think our goal is to really have you tell us your ideas, what you think we need, and then from there we can look at it and prioritize what is absolutely necessary, what is nice to have, and right size our budget.
No, and I 100% agree with that, but if it's way out of
Right.
budget, I think we're wasting a lot of effort trying to decide this and that. And when we talk about the tour, I got a comment about that. You want that?
Sure.
Love your website, very impressive. Seeing a lot of your buildings and stuff like that. I think we might even work up a few of them. So, but no, I like everything. say that I think, you know, looking at the, West Florida, and I like the properties that we're looking at, but the problem I got with them was, like Lawrence Police Department, it's 55,000 square feet. Okay, big building, they have 90,000 residents. That doesn't fit us. Okay, maybe we might go get some ideas, granted, but it doesn't fit who we are. Okay, or what we're gonna afford.
You'd be surprised, some of the materials are directly translatable. And they know that. I think the reason we recommended that is because it is a state-of-the-art station, and it does show a lot of different things from furniture, the light levels, the things that we've done in that building. We're also thinking about touring Marion's police station.
No, and I agree. That was next on the list. So
Yeah.
Merriam's 12,800 square feet, but it was a remodel. So you took an existing building instead of something that's new, and we're starting from the ground up as compared to working with constraints of an existing building. The same thing, it's a nice looking building, don't get me wrong, but you guys did really a good job taking something and making it much better. But we're starting from ground up, okay? And then same kind of the same comment on the on the Kansas City South Patrol. It's over 100,000 square feet. That's a big building.
This is KCK,
So
so
it's
it's
KCK South Patrol.
Okay,
It's 6,500 square feet. It's a patrol station that's down in the Argentine neighborhood.
okay,
So it's, yeah, Casey Mo South Patrol's a monster. Yeah.
okay. So same thing, but are all those facilities much bigger than what we're considering?
No, that one's about half the
If-
size. that we're considering.
Okay.
If I may, I don't think the point of the facility size has anything to do with the tour. It has everything to do with showing you different features of a building, because all of those features can scale to just about any size. So I don't think they're trying to show you a bunch of big stations. They're trying to show you different types of building materials, different type of room setups, different types of systems and things like that. That's really the point of the tour, not to get into a big, size comparison.
For instance, KCK, they have concrete floors in their station. It's a patrol station, it's not a whole police station, but it has concrete floors in the areas. It has unisex locker rooms. Before we jump off a bridge to consider unisex locker rooms, we would like to show you some facilities that have got those and let you talk to the people who work out of there to reinforce does it work. Does that make sense? Where Lawrence has got other things, Lawrence has got a great property. Our property rule will be shrunk down, but it needs to function like that one does, because they've done it right.
Okay.
So it's things like that we're looking at.
Okay.
I'm sorry, am I correct, Ken? I mean, the point of these wasn't to show the size of a building.
Right, if you ask, yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, you got one that's like the newest thing, it just shows chances are you're gonna maybe get something that has newer features than some of the other places do.
It has materials that are available today versus something like in Marion. Even that renovation is about 8 years old, so it's not antiquated by any means, but we have to do some major retrofits to that building to make it function better. And that's a building that's landlocked. And, Megan, I think you said, make sure that we don't have to build that building, we have enough space to do it. And that's one of the things we're really analyzing on this site or wherever we go, is to make sure that we don't have to build for a 100-year window. Let's build for the next 20 years, but allow the building to be expandable in the right orientation.
And Lawrence actually has some of those features, so and you'll see that, or we can go investigations in place. The sites in pretty much a future city park. There's room for additional vehicle buildings, or training buildings, or firing range. So seeing just how that's all laid out, we can walk through that as well. I think one thing with Lawrence is it's probably one of the most efficient layouts we've done. And again, it's one of the newest also, so you can see how again right sizing some of those arrangements can work for Green Valley. It won't be as large as Lawrence, but it'll work the same function. KCK is probably one of the smallest stations we've ever done. Again, the wood frame construction and seeing those concrete floors, just a different feel. And it was what that neighborhood wanted, and what KCK wanted. And it works real well for them. It's only a patrol station, so it's just one department. But again, I think the scene that is a different aesthetic, different durability, a different feel of the space, will really open your eyes to some different types.
I didn't know, essentially, if a concern was the size is, can we, I mean, not that we have to do this, but could we tour station of the same size? Does it have to be a station that was built by, I mean, I just wasn't sure if we could tour.
We've done probably 90% of the stations.
Okay.
we've done.
Is there
Yes,
another
sir.
station? Just,
Uh,
I'm
really,
not as concerned so
you know,
much, but if it is a concern,
Marion is, we think that we've done enough with the remodel, and we'll be able to tell, we'll be on a tour too. so
That's
we'll
a
be able to
good
tell you what
size
works and what
comparison.
doesn't. It's a great size comparison. If I can think of another one that was about that size, we've done all over the place. We've done these facilities. I mean, Sugar Creek, we could tour there, but that's police and fire combination. You know what I
Got
mean?
different
And it's a
things.
little bit different.
But if we did Riverside, but that was about 15 years ago.
Riverside stuff.
So it's
Yeah,
old,
no,
it's old,
no.
and so, technologies have changed, the way police stations operate have changed, police standards have changed.
no, I didn't realize you built that 90, so that's something I just wasn't sure.
But that's a legitimate question, and as I've kind of gone down through our list, if we find another one that's right size, I think everybody would vote, let's get it, see it too, or see it in.
Well, then that was kind of my challenge. Is there something, I don't disagree with seeing the different rooms and buildings and, stuff like that. I just don't want to be looking at this when in reality, when we have to settle for that type of thing.
What's really interesting about Lawrence too, not to interrupt you, apologize, I think it was only about a $16 million project. So we're talking 8 to 12 here again, about 2 years later, but Lawrence, much bigger than the old building than we're building, but it was only $16 million. So 55,000 square feet. Again, great pricing back then, just 2 years ago, but so you can really see a lot of things, and you'd be surprised at how far your buck can go when you make some smart decisions along the way. And we kept right sizing that building too. You don't really need that room to be 400. How about 300? And that's how Lawrence got to where they got.
Still looking for things that can be used for multiple functions too. We're looking at that. Hey, you got this training room, could it be used as a community room? Could it be used as this as well? And the answer is yes, yes, and yes. And now we've got one room, not three. If it's a room this big or twice this size, that's a pretty significant savings in cost. And I think the city has given us that kind of direction. Anytime we can double use a room or triple use a room.
No, I get multiple use. I understand all that. Absolutely.
Is there a concern with pricing with budget for the future? I mean, since this isn't gonna unfold tomorrow, you know what I mean? Is there a concern with if we say that the budget was, number that we had discussed and with the inflation of things, or maybe sort of deflation would be great?
With our contractors in the room, I could certainly lean that question for them, but it's been lack.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it really has.
I guess we just have to.
And I think you've got to have the proper contingencies associated with that. The worst thing, we've been really great, very lucky for how we do this. We've been in business 25 years, and we have never had a city project go over budget in terms of the business. And that's a strategy that we take, but it's also doing a lot of work up front before we start designing, so we understand what it is we're doing. Where is that bar? You know what I mean? If we,
And I think the very, you're the financially sound, like that's one of your goals that we're hunkering down on here. The city's listening, the architectural firm's listening. They're not in the business of trying to sell you a big building, right? I mean, they're here to meet the community's needs, and you're gonna help everybody kind of figure that out, right? So let's let this process kind of play itself out as far as that. And again, I think there's some trade-offs, having worked with these folks before in another community and watching the citizen input there. They actually went and told the police chief, I mean, the citizens did, like, we want you to add certain features to this building because we don't want to have to pay for this later. Like, we do want you to make it, ready to go for 50 years. We don't want to spend a bunch of money on maintenance if we can, put a little more money up front in material. So, but you guys may be completely different. We don't know. I mean, we've got to get into this.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to have a big say on not only the features, but what the budget looks like. I mean, if the facility going through this process meets all your goals, and we believe you're a good reflection of the rest of the community, then then it is what it is, right? I mean, so but I think you've got some folks here that are not going to, let this thing get carried away. And, so I think let's give this process a chance to figure out what's the right answer for Green Valley. Okay, we have Dr. Amanda Ellen joining us. So I don't know if we can get everybody just to kind of say hi real quick and
Oh, we are
just real quick.
Megan Spencer, we own Dallas Power Sports over there. Hi. Hi. Nice to meet you. Yep, we got it.
Okay.
Andy Powell, live here and own a business here.
Lance Shepherd's, on Shepherd's up in Chino.
Principal at Great Valley North Middle. We had parent teacher conferences tonight, so I apologize for the late arrival. Yeah.
All right, great, thank you. And one of the things we said that you didn't catch earlier, this thing is recording the meeting. I've got digital, so you can have a chance to go back and listen or watch this later. So we'll send follow-up information how to get your hands on the electronic stuff here. But thank you for joining us. I know you've had a busy day and a busy night already.
Yeah. No, no
So
problem.
did you get a cookie? Are you like you starving?
No, we had dinner tonight. Thank you though.
Okay, okay. Well, the next thing I want to do is have you get your calendars out or get ready to write down some dates. And I already gave you a heads up that the tour is on Monday, November 8th.
And that was November 8th. Just so I can have it wrong.
And that's like an all day thing.
Is there a starting time for that?
8:30? Oh, yeah, you want
I can
to
look
pass
at,
that
oh,
out.
yeah,
I
that'd be
printed
wonderful.
what, I printed what Steve.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Then I appreciate the flexibility. We had, some people saying days were better, and others were saying nights were better, but they were flexible. And so when I throw out some of these other dates, I want to just figure out, should we try to keep them in the evening or day? I know some of the folks that were here tonight won't have any issues. Most of the meetings after, other than the tour, are going to be Tuesday meetings. So I already kind of have an idea of the availability for that. The other thing here too is just trying to, like, when we were trying to at least put these tentative dates together, we knew that worked for Ken and Nick, they worked for the city. So the last thing I want to do is try to have a meeting, then the key people we need to have here with you aren't able. So we're kind of a little constrained on that, but hopefully we can get this done. So let's look at the next. So the tour is November 8th. That's kind of like an all day thing. That's a huge commitment. I hope you guys can make it. The meeting 3 would be the 23rd of November. We'll write these dates down, then we'll kind of do a quick little poll about whether day or night works best. And you guys don't have a big issue whether it's day or night, do you? On those dates, okay.
We don't, we're supposed to be meeting with the city in the afternoon, but if we have to, this group wants to meet in the afternoon, maybe we can meet with them in the morning or something.
Okay,
We'll work that out.
Okay.
One day before.
We said November 23rd was
November, what's that?
a day or a night.
Well, let's figure that out in a second, but just put that down now. Let's get the next date, December 7th. And then we have on the 14th, that's that open house public meeting. That's kind of like not like a kind of like an official mandatory study group meeting. That's one where we really, I mean, we're presenting your recommendations up to that point. So we certainly hope you can be there to help share those with everybody. But that's, and that'll definitely be an evening meeting on the 14th. And then the next one after that, where are my reading glasses? I mean, it was like 21st, December 21st. And what happens at that meeting is we kind of follow up, like, because we'll have like surveys and stuff at the public open house. And so we're going to share the community's feedback with you regarding the recommendations and things that you've put forward. And then the last meeting would be January 4th. Again, all those meetings are Tuesdays except for the tours. So first question I have is, any of those dates, any major showstoppers for anybody?
The 23rd, that's not a showstopper, but we're going out of town that evening, so for me, it'd have to be that day or.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay,
No big deal either way.
7th, I'm out of the country.
December 7th?
Yeah.
Okay. And nothing we could do, day or night, wouldn't matter there, okay?
14th, I don't know yet, maybe gone. So, I don't see what-
Okay. Now, let's ask this then, is an evening meeting like the 6:30 to 8:30, is that workable? Or would you rather do an afternoon or a morning? Is that,
You mean for all the meetings or whatever?
yeah, I mean, moving forward?
I'm good with this time is, I mean, if it works with the team, to make it earlier would be better, to start at 5:30 or something.
You can do that if that,
Is that? Are you okay with that, Andy?
now here comes the pizza, right? Andy?
That's dinner time.
There's cases and cases.
I
like
like
it.
it. Nobody likes it, right?
I like 5:30.
Is that?
I'm flexible.
Are you? Okay.
Very.
I can figure it out. I just have,
Well, what's a preference for you?
I can make it work.
Okay,
So if 5:30 is majority rules.
And I'm still going 6:30 to that
Yeah.
work, Megan. I don't care. I mean, it just
No.
makes it easier. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's kind of late. That's
No,
all.
I get it. And like I said, either way is really nice. I just have to arrange things for the kids.
okay.
So that's kind of it. So what are you?
Yeah, I might be late on the 23rd, but otherwise.
You could do 5:30 or 6:30?
5:30 would be tight, but I mean, I can always come in a little late on just that
Maybe,
23rd.
or maybe
is
what
the
about
only day.
6?
I'm good with whatever.
At least 6 gives us, we still be out by 8.
Shave a half hour off the start,
Well, hey, half hour.
half hour earlier and half hour.
I feel
out.
like 6 would be a little, at least I can manage to get my husband home at the time.
Oh, so that would actually look,
6 would be
just that
fine.
extra half
Yeah,
hour.
that would, yeah, believe it or not.
6?
Absolutely.
We can still.
Do I hear
we can
6?
Still do pizza, Andy, it's okay.
Yeah.
And like I said, November 23rd is my
Wait a
only,
minute, he's
I'm
not the
here.
only one who wanted pizza.
It's Andy and Ken.
November 23rd, if it's not during the day, I won't be able to be here, which is fine,
Okay.
just so you know.
Gotcha. No,
That's
I
up to
think
you
it
guys.
sounds like we're good for 6 PM.
And then, okay, and then it's okay if I miss that November 23rd one?
Yeah, if you can't be
Yeah,
here, you can't
okay.
be here.
Okay, just making sure.
I'm missing the tour.
Oh,
I've got a colleague coming down to help videotape
and if
things. but
anything
I-
changes, I'll be here, so.
Yeah, I'm bummed. I want to go on the tour. So I'm gonna be out of the country, so. All right, well, that's what we'll do then, 6 o'clock on those dates. So if you could go ahead and chisel those dates in stone. We will definitely do those dates. Yes, Ken?
Can I point something out?
Yes.
If you take a look at, this is the bond election the community process, and this is the design process. It looks like we're actually doing that design charrette July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, thank you. So we'll be prepared on the 14th for the open house workshop with the community. We'll have some tools to show them.
Okay.
But we can certainly open that up. You know, if the city's okay with it, allowing the study group to come in during that charrette time, just as leisurely, you know what I mean? You can come in anytime. The last day, we'll probably put the agenda together as we get closer. The last day to come in and see what it is one thing. You come in halfway through or early, you might be able to actually have impact on the design as we come out. So that might be nice to get. you
Well,
into.
yeah, we'll follow up with these kind of extracurricular things. We'll follow up with the dates for that. That work?
I know you're gonna work through, get those things perfectly.
Right. Well, with that, we're ready to hopefully go on the tour.
Existing PD.
Just 2 seconds, I'm just gonna try to keep this.